Today's lesson is a picnic party. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to continue talking about our picnic or our picnic party that is going to be held in Riverside Park. And the participants are going to be Tony, Zoe, and Sarah. They have invited Sarah as well. Maybe they could invite more people because remember, the more the merrier. If you have 10 or 20 people, it could be a really grand old time.
Absolutely, but there would be a lot more work preparing and transporting the food for 10 or 20 people than it would be for 3. So they're going to keep it nice and simple. Everyone is bringing something. Remember, Tony's bringing his famous lemonade and some brownies. Zoe was going to be bringing some of the main courses. I think there was some chicken salad in there, some finger sandwiches, and others. And Sarah, who was invited a little bit later on, was also going to bring her homemade cookies as another thing for dessert. So everything seems prepared. Let's check it out. 3. Meeting at the picnic spot. On Sunday, Sarah, Tony, and Zoe all meet up in the park.
This spot looks nice. Let's set up here. I'll spread the mat. Sarah, can you help with the food?
On it.
So here's a fun fact. The word picnic comes from the French word pique-nique, which was first used in the 1600s. It originally meant indoor potluck gatherings. Eating outdoors didn't catch on until the 1700s.
Cool. Speaking of traditions, in Italy, people enjoy picnics in vineyards or olive groves. The meals often include wine and fresh bread.
That sounds magical.
Well, we're not in a vineyard, but this is pretty great too.
Agreed. Let's dig in.
大家好，第一部分看到名词 potluck 表示百乐餐。举例来说 ，A potluck dinner allows everyone to share their favorite recipes. 百乐餐晚宴让每个人可以分享自己最喜欢的食谱。接着介绍名词 gathering， 它的意思是聚会或是集会。例如 ，We had a small gathering at the park to enjoy a picnic and play games. 我们在公园举行了一场小型聚会，一边享受野餐，一边玩游戏。或者 Jacob and Mariah are having a small gathering at their house tomorrow evening. Jacob 和 Mariah 明天晚上将在他们家举行小型聚会。另外补充，这个字也有采集的意思。造个例句 Gathering firewood in the wilderness is a crucial survival skill. 在野外采集柴火是一项重要的生存技能。或是 The tribe relies on the gathering of fruits and nuts for their daily food. 这个部落依靠采集水果和坚果作为日常食物来源。下一个看到名词 vineyard， 表示葡萄园。例如 The picturesque vineyard attracts many tourists each year. 美丽如画的葡萄园每年吸引许多游客。后面看到名词 grove， 它的意思是树丛或是小树林。例如 The children played hide and seek in the shady grove. 孩子们在阴凉的小树林里玩捉迷藏。也可以说 A peaceful grove near the lake became their favorite picnic spot. 湖边的一片宁静树林成为他们最喜欢的野餐地点。
We are meeting at the picnic spot. It's Sunday. Sarah, Zoe, and Tony, they are all meeting up in the park. And Zoe kicks off our dialogue by kind of looking around, getting the lay of the land, seeing what's happening in the park that day, who's where, right? I mean, there could be other people having picnics, so you have to kind of set yourself up in a place that's not too crowded. So she says, this spot looks nice. So here's an area. People aren't using it. Maybe it's under a tree. The grass is nice and green here. There's no dog poop on the ground or anything like that you want to avoid when you're having a picnic. So this is a good spot. It's attractive and it will suit our needs. Let's set up here. Let's put our stuff down here. Let's have our picnic here, in other words. And some of that would be setting things up. Remember, they have to put their mat on the ground. They had that small picnic tent, which will have to be actually set up or erected there or put up. And she says, I'll spread the mat. Sarah, can you help with the food? So here we are. Let's get all the stuff out and get ready to start picnicking.
Okay, so Sarah says on it. She could also have said I'm on it. I'll do it. I'm responsible for that. I'm only happy to do it. And Tony says, so here's a fun fact. Okay, to make the picnic interesting, Tony has some trivia here to share with the other participants.
Lemonade King and Picnic Trivia King.
Indeed, he knows all about this stuff, and he's saying, yeah, where does the word picnic come from? Well, it comes from the French word pique-nique, which was first used in the 1600s, which was quite some time ago. It originally meant indoor potluck gatherings. Okay, a potluck is when people get together to eat food, but each participant brings their own dish, so people can try different kinds of food cooked by other people. There isn't one person responsible for all the food for all the people. Everybody brings their own dish, and it's a lot of fun. You can try different kinds of food. Oh, that is such a good casserole. I must have the recipe. I'd like to make that myself. So indeed, it can be quite social and quite enjoyable. And a gathering is a time when people gather together. They assemble in a mutual location, in a central location, to have some sort of activity. In this case, they're gathering for a picnic, but you could gather for other things like maybe a bridge game or something like people gather together to play bridge or play cards, or you could gather together to have a party or whatever. Then he goes on to say, eating outdoors didn't catch on until the 1700s. So I guess in those times people thought, why would you want to eat outdoors? That's what animals do. That's what bears and wolves do. We don't want to be savages like that. We should eat our food indoors, away from the mosquitoes and things like that. But eventually this idea caught on. Hey, why not? Let's eat outside. We can listen to the birds singing. We can play with our animals or whatever. We can have a really grand old time.
There you go. So they only became popular in the 1700s. I guess if you were eating outside before that, you were a homeless peasant. Not very attractive, but eventually people did start to eat outdoors as a form of recreation. Sarah says, cool, that's interesting, right? To know about picnic and the potluck gatherings and how it's only been popular for 300 years or so. Speaking of traditions, Sarah says, in Italy, people enjoy picnics in vineyards or olive groves. Oh, isn't that a wonderful image to have? Maybe some of you out there have been lucky enough to do this. Go to Italy, and this is the tradition. This is kind of the way they've been doing it in Italy now and back in time. People do have picnics there, but in special locations. They have picnics in vineyards, places where they grow grapes to make wine out of. So the vineyard was kind of like a farm, basically, but just for grapes that grow on vines. That's so it's a vine yard, but it's pronounced vineyard. So the pronunciation's a little bit different. And yeah, these will often be right next to a place where they actually make the wine, crush the grapes and put it in barrels and all that kind of stuff. So imagine a nice hillside and sunny Italy there, and you're kind of sitting among all these beautiful grapevines, enjoying your picnic. Or maybe you're sitting in a beautiful olive grove. And a grove is similar, as I said, to a farm, but this will generally be for things that are grown on trees. So you'll have an orange grove or an apple grove or something like that. And it's kind of like a forest, but a man-made forest where the trees will be planted, in rows in very regular kind of way, like on a farm, so that it's easy to move around and to pick all the fruit when they are ripe. But it gives you that nice feeling of kind of being in a very well-sculpted, planned out little forest with all these wonderful olive or fruit trees around you. And it says the meals often include wine and fresh bread and maybe some pasta, some antipasta, some salad caprese, things like that you can eat outdoors and have nice and cool like you would want for a really good picnic.
Right. Sounds like the Italians really know how to have great picnics. I'm sure we have different variations in different countries of the picnic or the outside meal. And Zoe says that sounds magical. Yes, indeed, it does sound magical. Really wonderful to have a picnic in a vineyard or an olive grove where you can have wine and fresh bread and maybe some pasta or whatever. And Tony says, well, we're not in the vineyard, but this is pretty great too. So yeah, the vineyard might be ideal for a picnic. It's probably hard to top that, but still, this is a really great time that we're having here in Riverside Park with these finger sandwiches and the fruit skewers and my lemonade and, of course, my delectable brownies.
Oh, yeah.
Delicious brownies.
Don't forget those homemade cookies too. So Tony says, well, we're not in a vineyard. We're not in Italy. We don't have that magical Mediterranean light and all that stuff. We're at the Riverside Park. But still, he says this is pretty great too. So we might not be in that picture picture postcard scene from Italy, but still being in this park on this nice day. Look, we got the water over there, kids riding by on bikes. It's a very nice scene, a very nice place to be. And Sarah agrees. So she says, agreed. When you kind of feel or think the same way as a person and you want to basically agree or support that statement, you can just sort of repeat it by saying, agreed. Yes, I agree. Same here. Let's dig in, she says. When you dig in, that's kind of an informal and fun way of saying, let's start eating. So you wouldn't say that at a formal event, but you would definitely say that at a more casual dinner. All right, everyone, go ahead, start eating, dig in. The food is getting cold.
Indeed. So hopefully they're going to have a great meal and enjoy some activities at their picnic. Here's part 4, having fun at the picnic. Let's listen first.
4. Having fun at the picnic. After a while, they chat while playing a board game.
Hey Zoe, I heard you hiked to Yushan's main peak?
That's right. It was such an amazing experience.
Really? What was it like?
The sunrise looked breathtaking from the peak, so the view made all the effort worth it.
How hard was the hike? I've always thought Yushan is only for pros.
It's challenging, but you just need to prepare well. The trail is well marked and the scenery keeps you motivated.
It sounds like quite an adventure. And, I believe being in nature can really provide ecotherapy.
That's true, just like us having this great picnic in the park. Let's do it again somewhere else next weekend.
That sounds awesome. Count me in.
第二部分介绍名词 pro 表示专业人士或是专家，可以说 When it comes to household repairs, my uncle is a pro. 说到房屋维修，我的叔叔是专家。又或者说 The young amateur tennis star turned pro after winning the tournament. 那位年轻的业余网球明星在赢得锦标赛后转战职业。最后看到动词 motivate， 它的意思是激励、激发或是驱使。在对话中 motivated 为过去分词做形容词用，表示有动机的或是有目的的意思。举个例子 A motivated team can overcome the toughest challenges. 一个有动力的团队能克服最艰难的挑战。再看一个例子 Motivated students often outperform their peers in academic settings. 有动机的学生在学术环境中通常表现优于同侪。顺便再补充一下这个字的名词 motivation 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 指动机或是诱因，也可以是积极性的意思。找个例句 Ella found the motivation to finish the project on time. Ella 找到了按时完成这项计划的动力。最后一个句子 Jenny is smart, but she doesn't have enough motivation. Jenny 很聪明，但她做事动力不足。
Okay, so remember they were eating first. Of course, it took some effort to bring all of the essentials or all of the supplies to the picnic location. But now they are full on the food and they want to have some fun. So after a while, they chat while playing a board game. Okay, so there are many different kinds of board games out there. Some of the more common ones would be Monopoly, as I said. There's Risk, there's Clue. Can you name any other ones?
Some of the older ones, too. You could talk about chess or backgammon or checkers, things like that as well.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, you got some modern games that people play as well. So they're playing a board game, and then Sarah says, Hey, Zoe, I heard you hiked to Yushan's main peak. So we can tell that this picnic is taking place in Taiwan here. And of course, lots of people enjoy hiking. And Sarah has heard that Zoe went hiking. She went to the highest mountain in Taiwan and the highest peak there, Yushan, okay? And, of course, the peak is the top part of a mountain, the part that is the highest.
Right, so she could also say you climbed up to the top of Yushan. That, of course, would be the main peak, the main high point. Zoe says, that's right, correct, she did that. It was such an amazing experience. So she had a really good time. And if someone says it was an amazing experience, that's basically a recommendation that if you're able, you should probably think about doing this too, because it was so great. and I'm sure you will feel the same. Tony is maybe a little less sure. He needs a few more details before he decides to follow. He says, really? What was it like? Tell me more. I want to have a bit more information about this experience, climbing to the top of Yushan. And Zoe tells him, she says, the sunrise looked breathtaking from the peak, so the view made all the effort worth it. Okay, well, yeah, that's a pretty good reason to go. A breathtaking sunrise from the peak or the top of the mountain. A lot of people would say, all right, that's all I need to hear. I want to see that sunrise early in the morning. Of course, from the east, the sun will rise. It will come over the horizon. And as I'm sure anyone who's been up that early will know, you get these wonderful colors in the sky as the sun comes over the horizon and the day begins. It is breathtaking. If something's breathtaking, it's basically just saying it's spectacular, it's magnificent, it's wonderful, it's out of this world, it is stupendous. It took my breath away. It was so impressive. I stopped breathing for a moment. So we're not actually saying you're physically running out of air. We're just saying it was really spectacular. It's something you will never forget if you get the chance to experience it. So the view made all the effort worth it, the effort of climbing the mountain, and of course the effort of probably getting up at like 2 o'clock in the morning to climb a mountain because you'd want to be at the top around 5 o'clock in the morning during sunrise. For me, that would be the hardest part.
Indeed, I have never hiked to the top of Yushan before, so I don't know if it's really breathtaking up there or not, but I have been to Alishan and I have seen the sunrise over the sea of clouds.
There you go.
Indeed, it was very breathtaking. And here's Tony. He's got another question about Zoe's hike to the top of Yushan. How hard or how difficult was the hike? I've always thought Yushan is only for pros. Okay, a pro is a professional, somebody who knows what they're doing. Yeah, Yushan is only for pros. That's what Tony thinks. Can anybody do this, or do you have to have some experience in hiking?
Yeah, so it's kind of a high-level activity that a beginner, someone who doesn't hike very much, they might not want to do this. They could get in trouble in some way. And Zoe says it's challenging. So yeah, she's saying it's not easy. So it's maybe not for beginners. If you're not in good shape and you don't have the proper equipment, for example, don't think about doing this because it's not a beginner activity, but you don't have to be the fittest person. So it's challenging, but you just need to prepare well. So be in reasonable shape, have the right equipment, and it should be fine even if you don't hike very often. And here's another couple of things she points out. The trail is well marked and the scenery keeps you motivated. Well, that first part is definitely the most important. The trail, the path, the sort of route that you take to the top, it's well marked. Some of this will be, I guess, in the dark, right? Because you will have to start very early. You'll have flashlights or headlights or something on your head there. But still, they will mark the trail. So there'll be like a colored ribbon or string or rope kind of on either side of the path so that you don't walk off the side of the mountain or end up lost in the woods or something like that. So there's very little chance of that. It's kind of like having marks on the road. So even at night in a rainstorm, you know where the edges of the road are so you don't go off the track and get in trouble. And to kind of motivate you, the scenery keeps you motivated. The scenery keeps you moving along. It's beautiful. So even if you're tired, all you do is look up and, oh, wow, look how nice that is. And then you kind of think it's going to be even nicer once we get to the top and the sun starts to rise. So even when you're tired, even when you want to quit and maybe even turn around and go home, the scenery will kind of keep egging you on, pushing you on, giving you encouragement to keep trying a few more steps, and eventually you'll be at the top.
Yeah, I once hiked a trail outside of Yuli in Taidong, but it was too late, so we had to turn back.
Oh, too bad.
But indeed, if you see the nice scenery there, of course, you'll be encouraged or motivated to keep on going. And Sarah says, it sounds like quite an adventure. And I believe being in nature can really provide ecotherapy. So this must be a new word here. Of course, we've got different kinds of therapy, different kinds of treatments that can help you with various problems you have. And ecotherapy, I guess, means that you're going out in nature and it makes you feel better about yourself, especially if you live in a city and you work a very stressful job. If you get out in nature, it can really do you a world of good.
Okay, sort of like talking about your problems with a doctor. You can go and talk to the trees, or at least be among the trees and you'll come back feeling relaxed and less stressed and healthier, get a lot of good oxygen in your lungs. Kind of like that tree bathing, right? We've talked about that. People in Japan go and lie in the forest. Just the green and the smell and the bird sounds, that can be very relaxing and very sort of healthy for people, especially us city people. Zoe says that's true, just like us having this great picnic in the park. Yeah, another form of ecotherapy. You don't have to get up so early or drive so far. You can enjoy the local green spaces around where you live. Let's do it again somewhere else next weekend. Okay, might be a new tradition, a new weekend tradition, going for a picnic, at least while the weather cooperates. Sarah says, that sounds awesome. Count me in. When you say count me in, you're saying include me in that plan. I want to do that too. I am part of your group. I am telling you right now, count me in.
My goodness, after hearing about their picnic at Riverside Park, I am motivated, I am inspired to have a picnic myself. And yes, indeed, hopefully somebody will invite me to their picnic and I'll be able to say, count me in, I will gladly attend. Okay, we're at the end of our lesson for today. Let's listen now to Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。在课文第一部分的对话里， Tony 聊到野餐的起源，接着 Sarah 说好酷哦。说到传统，在意大利人们喜欢在葡萄园或橄榄树林里野餐，那它是用到 speaking of traditions 来表达说到传统怎么样怎么样。那么 speaking of 可以用来引出跟前文相关的其他话题，表达说提到什么说到什么。那它是片语介系词，后面要接名词或动名词。假设朋友正好聊到食物，那你刚好肚子饿，想去吃点东西，这时候就可以说 Speaking of food, I'm getting hungry. Let's go grab a bite. 说到食物，我肚子饿嘞，我们去吃点东西吧。那顺便补充一下 when it comes to 这个用法，则通常用来引导一个话题，带出跟主题相关的资讯，表达说提到点点点，就什么而论，或者是谈到什么什么。这个用法当中的 to 是介系词，后面要接名词或动名词。例如 It's important to know your limits when it comes to swimming. 说到游泳，知道自己的极限在哪是很重要的。好，课文第二部分的对话一开始他写到 After a while, they chat while playing a board game. 句子里面出现2次 while， 那第一个 while 就是 after a while 这个 while 它是当名词，我们常常会用 a while 去表达一会儿一段时间的意思。举例来说 It took me a while to solve the riddle. 我花了一点时间才解开谜语。那第二个 while 它是当连接词来用，那我们这边就来整理一下 while 当连接词的不同意思。第一个，它可以表达 during the time that， 表达在什么什么期间与什么什么同时，用来引导时间副词子句。那么当连接的2个子句主词一样时，就可以省略掉副词子句的主词，也就是我们把这个 while 后方的主词省略，然后呢，动词可以改成分词，动词是主动就是用现在分词 VING， 被动就只保留过去分词 PP， 那这部分就会简化成 while 加 VING 或 PP 的形式，就像课文用法。好，举例来说 Tim dropped his phone while getting out of the taxi. Tim 下计程车时手机掉了。那第二个我们可以用 while 去表达虽然尽管，那意思会跟 though although 一样，用来引导让步副词子句。例如 While the car is old, it's still in good condition. 尽管这辆车子旧了，但它的车况还是很好。第三个是表达而然而，用来连接2个对比或不同的陈述，意思就相当于 whereas。例如 While Ryan likes to travel with his friends, his brother prefers to travel alone. Ryan 喜欢跟朋友一起旅行，而他哥哥喜欢独自旅行。我们用来做对比。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Gathering. We had a family gathering to celebrate my grandmother's birthday. Vineyard. This vineyard produces some of the finest wines in the region. Breathtaking. The dancers gave a breathtaking performance at the theater. Motivate. Sammy's speech was meant to motivate the team to work harder.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.